1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All of it.
One of resistance.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Rebellion.
Rebellion is built on hope.
And redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Star Wars Reactions. And this just isn't any. Well, I'm getting all tongue-tied here, Carabass, because I'm having a great time. That can't be a record. Yes, this isn't just any episode. This is episode 50 of Star Wars Reactions. 50, that's right, 50, the big 50. We are beyond double digits. We are half a century old when it comes to shows. So we are excited, and we want to thank you for joining us. And I guess I better tell you who us are if you're new to the show. My name is Aaron Harris, and joining me is the hunter to my Omega, the David Motters. David, brother, welcome to episode 50.
Congrats, buddy, on 50. I know that we've done a lot more than 50, but it's really nice to hit that with Star Wars Reactions. And so congrats to you, and I'm ready to react, as always. And I do believe that your Carabass moment just set a new record for like smallest number of seconds into a recording. I didn't think you could beat some of the previous ones, but I think you did.
I think I did too. And that's amazing that I keep doing that week after week after week. So we'll see what else happens. So this is unique for us, episode 50. And what's even more unique about this is I am not in the gorgeous Star Wars Reaction studios that I normally record in, because my wife is reorganizing the office, her half of the office, and I can't get to my half of the office. So, and plus they're all out of town. So I am sitting here in the illustrious Star Wars Reactions dining room in front of a crowd of two. And no, David is not one of those two. My dogs, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, are staring at me like I'm a crazy person, just sitting here talking to the air and talking into this stick that they're very curiously looking at. But yeah, it's going to be a great show. Got a lot of fun. David, how's your week been?
Pretty good. You know, you and I were chatting beforehand. We always kind of try to get up to date a bit. I'm excited to record this, excited for episode 50. I'm excited to cover this episode. Incredible stuff. But then I'm really excited because I teased last week some of the stuff I wanted to cover in my psychology corner. So I hope the listeners really enjoy that. I really put a lot of effort into it. And so excited about that. And you'd mentioned that I'm not there with you in the illustrious Star Wars Reactions studios or dining room, but I'm excited because I do get to see you this week down in Orlando at Disney Springs at Jock Lindsay's Hangar Bar, which you and I have hung out at before, Celebration 2017 in Orlando. So I'm looking forward to being back there with you, seeing Dan Z from Coffee with Kenobi, hoping that Jason Brame is there, a good buddy of ours, who's been on Coffee with Kenobi and on with us, and just a Star Wars brother. Hopefully he's there, but looking forward to seeing you in a couple days.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. That's coming up actually the day this episode releases, Wednesday the 30th of June. That is the 30th, right? Yes,
that's right.
June, that is June 30th is the day that we will be doing that, and I am hoping to have more success this time and enjoy the evening without a broken hand. Because the last time I was there, my hand was broken and I hadn't been to the doctor yet. So I am like walking around extra carefully, trying to make sure I don't injure myself and show up with a broke hand again. So
I was there, and you were tough as nails, man. I would have been crying, but you stuck it out. It was a podcast meetup, and I just really enjoyed being there with you. And boy, there's a ton of people at that one. Aaron Owens from Star Wars Bookworms, obviously Dan Z. Mark Newbold was there with his wife, England, and Corey Club. Who else did we have there?
I just blinked on their names. Charlotte and what's her name? From Sky Talkers.
Yes.
Because they had just launched their podcast and they were there. Charlotte and it's going to bother me. I can't think of her name. And I'm sorry, whatever your name is, I can't think of your name. It's going to come to me because I'm on Twitter right now, looking them up. Caitlin, that's it.
Right.
Caitlin. Charlotte and Caitlin, met them too. Broke hand and all. So. But yes, it's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to it. Wednesday night, going to be a blast. So yeah, that's going to be fun. So I've been doing good. Just got back from my anniversary trip, which I mentioned last week on our last episode. That went on. I had a great weekend with my wife, celebrating 15 years, and then they flew out for Arkansas to visit my family, my sister, and everybody. And I'm still here, dog sitting and watch. They're going to visit my family, and I'm the one staying home watching the dog. What's up with that?
That's a Carabast.
That's a Carabast in and of itself. But it's okay. I made him pay. I was naughty today on my drive home from the airport and came home with several things I probably shouldn't have, including the Star Wars Black Series Galaxy's Edge Captain Cardinal First Order Stormtrooper helmet. That was a Target exclusive.
You sent a picture. It's beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous. I love it. I had no intention of getting it because it retailed like $100, and I'm like, there's no way. I'm not good. I can't. But it went on sale last week, and I caught it out of the blue on sale for like 50% off. I'm like, okay, well that I can swallow. I can do that. So I got this helmet for $50. Not bad.
Nice. Very nice.
And when I went to pick it up, they had just put out a case of the retro collection figures, the 3 3/4 inch retro collection. So I got the Cara Dune from the Mandalorian retro. And I found they also had just put out the Hot Wheels Starships vehicles. And they had the Bad Batch Marauder, the Bad Batch shuttle.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I was pretty stoked. I'm like, dude, this is a good run.
That was a good run.
Yeah. And then I did go one more thing though, and it was not Star Wars related. On the same Hot Wheel aisle, I also found I'm a sucker for Batmobiles.
Oh.
I like Batmobile, and it's not all Batmobiles. It's just certain Batmobiles, like from the '89 Batman with Michael Keaton. I love that one. The one from the animated series, Batman the Animated Series. I love that one. The one from the Adam West show. Those are my 3 Batmobiles. Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
But today I found and I didn't even know they made this, but it's Hot Wheels. It's from the old 80s animated cartoon show, the Super Friends. They had the Batmobile from that on the shelf. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I had that thing as a kid. I can't walk away from this. So I got that too.
It's funny because, over the weekend, you and I were texting, and I was looking at all my top Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi cards. and Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark ones. But I have a little bin, and I was looking, and I got Adam West's autograph, Burt Ward's, of course. Adam West played Batman in the '66 Batman. Burt Ward played Robin, but also at that particular convention, you're talking, 1970. I gotta look if it was 77 or 78. It was back in my home state of Michigan, and they also had the Batmobile there, and so I got a card of that, and on the back it talks about how it was built and all the different things inside of it, and so that's kind of my original Batmobile was growing up with that, and I remember meeting Adam West and Burt Ward, and so it was really cool. So when you mentioned that, yeah, I got to see Batmobile as well as those. Gil Gerard was also there. Talk about a blast from the past. He played.
Oh wow!
Remember, right, from Buck Rogers.
Yeah.
They had a little. They had someone walking around in a Tweety outfit. The little robot that they used in that Buck Rogers show. I think Aaron Gray was in that as well with Gil Gerard. But that was a pretty cool. For me as a kid, obviously Batman and Robin's there, Buck Rogers played by Gil Gerard, and the little Tweety robot, and of course the Batmobile. So that was kind of an original con back in the day. That was held at the Saginaw Civic Center. It is still there to this day. Yes. I think I was 8-9 years old. So yes, I was looking at that this weekend when I was texting you about the Star Wars Topps cards and stuff. So yes, Batmobiles galore.
Well, I do have a confession just now. When you said somebody was walking around in the Tweety costume, I was thinking the little yellow bird who thought he saw a putty tat.
Right. Well, I think Mel
It didn't
Blanc,
click that it was a robot until you said robot, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about what's named Tweety.
Well, now here's the thing. I believe someone out there, one of our listeners, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Mel Blanc did the voice of that robot, of course, as well as Tweety Bird, right? In the Looney Tunes. So I remember the little robot in the show, and I think it was playing it on the convention floor. It was going beady, beady, beady. Like I always remember him doing that in the TV show, and but I believe it was Mel Blanc, but I could be wrong on that one.
Let's see.
Yeah, it might have been one of the last things Mel Blanc did. Like if I look up, when did Mel Blanc die? What do you look up? Well, I can look up.
I'm looking. I'm going through his filmography right now. Mel Blanc.
Look at this tangent one. So born May 30th, 1908, and then he died at 89.
He was Tweaky.
Oh, is it Tweaky? Okay.
Tweaky. Twiki. Tweaky. Tweaky. And he also did the voice of Tweety Bird.
See?
Tweety and Tweaky. So as well as Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, Yosemite Sam, Barney Rubble.
Yeah.
The dude's a legend. So
look at that. There's how Tweety Bird and Tweaky are related. Looney Tunes and Buck Rogers.
See, not everything is Star Wars, people.
Yes.
Not everything.
Our listeners are like, get back to Star Wars.
Let's do that. Let's get on with the show because we got a great show, episode 50. And I think probably there's not a lot of news, but there was some news that broke really right before, within an hour before us starting to record this, which was awesome to hear that the team over at the Clone Wars, the team that put together that final season of the Clone Wars, was nominated for not one, not two, but 3 Daytime Emmy awards. So congrats to them. They were nominated for Best Writing Team for a Daytime Animated Program. They were nominated for Best Sound Mixing / editing for Daytime Animated Program. And third, they were nominated for Best Music Direction for a preschool, children's, or animated program. Congrats to the team over at the Clone Wars. Fingers crossed that they bring some of those trophies home.
Absolutely. Gosh, so well deserved, so high quality. I loved covering those with you last year, buddy. And in fact, last night I watched the last one, episode 12 of that season, Victory and Death. Just watched it again last night before I went to bed. I'm like, I got to watch this. And just incredible stuff. Watching Ahsoka and Rex escape that Jedi cruiser. So, yeah.
Oh, tremendous. I mean, those final episodes, especially the final arc, was just so gorgeous. It was just, oh man, it was unlike anything we had seen, and it's definitely well deserved. They should have been nominated for a lot more personally, but I might be a little biased, but I think they definitely outdid themselves in that. So, but we'll see. Hopefully they get to bring home some trophies and celebrate the end of an era.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and continue episode 50 with looking at the latest episode of The Bad Batch, which is entitled Bounty Lost. Bounty Lost. This, of course, was released on June 25th, 2021, exclusively on Disney Plus. Written by Matt Michnovitz and directed by Brad Rowell and Daniel Villanueva. This episode, of course, picks up right where the last episode, Reunion, finished, with the capturing of Omega by Cad Bane. He takes her on board his ship to a predetermined rendezvous point where he plans on trading her for credits from the Kaminoans. Tanway is sent to meet him, but unfortunately things don't go as planned as Fennic Shand shows up, kills Tanway, and then we get this awesome battle between Bane and Fennic Shand over Omega. So things don't go as planned, and able to contact Hunter and the guys and get everybody out there so they can rescue her before it is too late. But we definitely end up getting some hints and some big reveals in this episode, like finding out that Omega is an unaltered clone of Jango Fett, just like another famous bounty hunter, Boba Fett. And we found out that it was actually Lama Su who hired Fennec to get Omega back. And of course we find out it was I just blanked on the Prime Minister's name.
No, this, a lot of people are getting this messed up. Yeah, Lama Su is the Prime Minister. Nala Se is the one who wanted Fennec.
That's it. I flipped the names.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. What he said.
Well, you and I help bail each other out the whole time, man.
Exactly. So great episode, a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed the episode. I loved that we had the bounty hunter versus bounty hunter angle in this episode. The Shand versus Bane. It was awesome to see that happen and see them go back and forth at it. And I think basically it really builds her reputation, because after The Mandalorian, we were given she's such a dangerous bounty hunter. She was a dangerous assassin and bounty hunter, and we really didn't see it. We just had to go on the word, and we're actually seeing her take on and hold her own against Cad Bane, which proves that she's a force to be reckoned with. And I do say I'm not thrilled that we got Omega rescued in this episode. I think they probably could have expanded the story out and made it a little bit more, I don't know, a lot more drama. But I think they told a great story and it was well done. I would have loved for them to stretch it out and then we could see another Hunter versus Bane rematch where Hunter actually comes out on top this time. But I think the revelations in this were awesome. Definitely unexpected. But I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. David, what were your first thoughts about this episode about Bounty Lost?
Yeah, first things first, I would not make it as a bounty hunter in the galaxy far, far away. I was watching and I'm like, I would either have my butt kicked, I'd be flamed, like with Cad Bane's flames there.
Yep.
Fennic is placing, detonators, thermal detonators everywhere. I'd be blown up. Or my credits would be taken, or all of the above. So I just really enjoyed, like you said in your initial thoughts, seeing them like 3 different times really battling to a standstill at times. Just incredible animation how they did that. It's exciting. It was fast paced. I enjoyed that. I was on the edge of my seat, really wondering if Omega would be rescued or if she was going to be back in Bane's custody. I thought that might happen. And just like you were mentioning, right, I am curious to see where this season goes now with Nala Se and Lama Su having different views on what to do with Omega if they get her back. Again, like Aaron and I were just saying, it's basically this episode finally clarified some stuff for us. Who hired who? It looks like Nala Se, who has that special interest in Omega, was hired Fennic Shand to make sure that she stays safe. It seems pretty clear that Lama Su, the Prime Minister, hired Cad Bane. And so that's going to be interesting. That also helped me to understand something back in the very first episode. Was it the first one? Towards the end where they're trying to get off Camino, why Nala Se, I think she helps them escape. And I was like, wait, why is that? Now it's becoming clear. She wants Omega safe, and that's why she's continued to do it. That's why she paid Fennic at the end, because she knew that Fennic kept Omega out of Lama Su's hands and like I said, safe. So really fun, really exciting. Like I said, animation incredible, action incredible, plus the story gets pushed further, and so just outstanding and a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it really was. I thoroughly enjoyed the episode. I thought it was a blast and a lot of great things. So let's go ahead and start hitting on some of these talking points here that we have listed. The shock of Omega, the Omega revelation, the unaltered clone of Jango Fett, first generation DNA. I mean, that I'll admit that's something I did not expect. I was expecting, she's a force sensitive clone. We cloned her off of Palpatine, or something crazy like that. But no, she's an unaltered clone of Jango Fett. Interesting concept. In my thoughts, because the war's winding down, the war's over. They're already questioning the need for the clones. Why would it be so important? My question is, at this point, why is it so important to have an unaltered clone of Jango Fett for the DNA if you're not going to be selling the troops to the Republic anymore, or to the Empire?
Right. Well, you know what it looks like, brother, is that if, I think Lama Su's banking on this, if we can have her produce exceptional clone troopers that have special skills like Hunter and Tech and Wrecker and stuff like that, that would be the next thing that they sell to the Empire, right? More than these standard clones. Look at these clones that we have now been able to perfect, and there's the gravy train, the money ticket, right? That's what I'm surmising, right? That's our contingency plan. We're gonna sell the Empire. We're gonna sell Tarkin an improved version of the clone troopers that we've done for years. Is that kind of what you're thinking too, brother, or what?
Well, it's a good thought. I honestly, I don't know what to think. That's my issue. Because that I honestly don't. I understand that line of thought, and it's a good line of thought. But my issue is the fact that I don't. They already aren't. The Empire is going to make its decision based on Tarkin's report. Tarkin already doesn't like the modified clones. He doesn't like clones to begin with, but he's not liking the modified clones because now he's got troopers running around trying to chase down Clone Force 99. So I think he would be the last person to rubber stamp buying clones with exceptional skills like Clone Force 99.
You make a very good point, and it might speak to the desperation that Lama Su, the Prime Minister, where he is. But good point, very good point.
Maybe they're thinking they could sell the clones to the rebels.
Yeah, right. Well, right. The other side.
Yeah. Well, we don't know. There's a little spark of rebellion out there, but nothing like we've seen like we see later in the Empire days.
Agreed. Hey, question I have is, how old is Omega? If Boba Fett is Alpha, she's Omega, right? Tech said that in the episode. Is she just a couple years younger? Like, when did they do that? And, obviously Jango, he's killed in episode 2. Does he even know about Omega? Does he know? Because I don't get a sense he knew that there was another unaltered clone. Unaltered being no aging, accelerated aging, and no modification in terms of obedience. But what do you think? Do you think she's just a couple years younger than Boba?
They probably created Omega when Boba disappeared. When Jango and Boba disappeared, that's probably when they were like, you know what, we need another unaltered clone, and popped it out of a tube real quick.
I like that.
So that's my theory. So she probably was born around the time of episode 2.
Okay.
Is what I would think.
Okay.
In that time frame.
All right.
Don't know how.
Yeah.
That might be a little hard sell, because I'm not sure how much time elapsed between episode 2 and the end of episode 3.
Right.
It's several years, I know, but I don't know if it would be enough if she was pulled out of a test tube and born then, if she would be at that age by the end of the Clone War. But then again, she could have been born the exact same time, and just not and hidden away.
Exactly. That was the other thing I was thinking. Yes, they did it, and Jango Fett's in Topoka City there on Camino, but he's never told.
Keep in mind, Boba is about her age at this point,
right?
Because we see him throughout through the Clone Wars series. We see him as he's a boy, but he's doing bounty hunter work, like his dad did. So we could very well be seeing his sister that was kind of like Luke and Leia. They were separated at birth.
Right. I just wonder if he's a little bit older because I'm visualizing Daniel Logan in episode 2 and how old he is. And what do you think Boba is in episode 2? Daniel, 10, 11?
Yeah.
So like you said, it depends. Like Lama Sue mentioned it in this episode. We get her back, take her down to the lower levels where no one can see her. So again, she could have been around the whole time, and maybe she is the same age as Boba, or maybe just created a little bit after. It's hard to know. It'll be interesting to see if they ended up giving us some hard and fast numbers on this. But so far so good. Pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool so far. So, all right. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be right back to keep talking more of Bounty Lost. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We are enjoying our discussion of Bounty Lost, which was a great episode of The Bad Batch, which recently came out. Let's take a look at one of the big things that I noticed in this episode, and it was very subtle, but it was a huge for me. And I just noticed you actually had it in the notes. And I didn't notice it before, and I actually penciled it in right before I called you and to start recording. Was Omega and Hunter, when they're finally reunited at the end of the episode, how Hunter reacts and Hunter's growth as that father figure to Omega. We know in the early episodes, especially the episode when he meets up with Cut Lukane, he ends up, she gets in trouble, and they end up rescuing her, and he's like fussing at her. What are you doing? What were you thinking? And Cut's like, no, you got to chill out. It's not a soldier. And basically plays the good example. Are you hurt? Are you okay? Don't worry about it. Let's go. And we see Omega get rescued in this episode, and of course Wrecker's ecstatic. He holds her up in the air. I got her back, yay! And then she goes up to Hunter, and Hunter drops to a knee, and of course Hunter's still beat up from his encounter with Cad Bane when she was taken, and he drops to a knee and looks at her. He's like, are you okay? Did they hurt you? And he's very calm. He's very kind. It's a completely different demeanor for him, which I loved seeing that change in him and how he reacts to Omega. What are your thoughts and opinions on that, Dr. David?
Yeah. Well, when I initially watched it, I didn't pick up on it. And then in the second viewing, I'm like, wait a minute. I remember Cut, and like you said, Aaron, in the second episode, Cut and Run, Cut models that for Hunter. Cut asks Omega, are you okay? And then he asks, are you hurt? And Hunter does the same thing. And so it was really neat to see that. Of course, last year when Aaron and I covered all of season 2 of The Mandalorian, the overarching theme that I did with the psychology corners there was on parenting and the growth of Din Djarin, our favorite Mandalorian, or maybe one of our favorite Mandalorians, the growth of his parenting skills. And we're seeing it here. So I really enjoyed it. So when you ask me what I think, I really like this, and I like to see him grow, and really all of them in their love for her and protection of her. So yeah, I admit I didn't pick up on it the first viewing. Second viewing, I'm like, yeah, I got it. Yes, he's learning. Hunter's learning.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I loved it. I mean, it was just, it was, I love how they're showing the growth at that point, and they did it so subtly too. It wasn't a big show of love and support. It was just a simple, are you okay? Are you hurt? Everything's fine. I love that. And just like today when I was, and I can relate to that. Because today, like I mentioned earlier, I took my family to the airport and they flew off to visit my family and left me home alone to work and, watch dogs while they visit my family. I'm getting the short end of the stick on that one, I think. But needless to say, it was my youngest daughter's first trip on an airplane. So, we get to the security. I can't go with them any further. So we're all saying our goodbyes and she gives me a hug and I get down on one knee and I'm looking at her. I'm like, you're going to be fine. You're going to do great. You're going to have so much fun. I can't wait for you to tell me how good your flight is and everything you did. And so it was, I can relate to that, to Hunter in that situation. And he at least he's not letting her run into a dangerous situation. Hey, I'm going to go kill something. Why don't you come with me? Like he was doing in the last several episodes. But I loved seeing that type of growth. All right. Cad Bane, man. We got more Cad Bane. Cad Bane, and I'll be honest, I'm gonna provide an unpopular opinion. During the Clone Wars run, I was not a fan of Cad Bane.
Really?
I just kind of did not like the character. It kind of he's grown on me since. But my first watch through of Clone Wars, I didn't like Bane. I don't know why. I didn't like it. In the multiple rewatches of the series, I kind of like the guy. He's definitely he's a cut of a different flavor, and I like it. He's got that Western gunslinger mystique to him, and I love, oh my gosh, Kevin Kiner's music for him in this. Like when he comes down the ladder to check on Omega, that little Western do was just, oh my gosh, it was perfect. So I've grown to like him more, but when I first saw him, I could have cared less for Cad Bane.
Well, like we said, everyone send your responses to T.A. Harris 121079. For Twitter.
Mine. Yes, and remember, my name is David. No, I'm just kidding.
You're funny.
If you agree with me, tweet me at TA Harris 121079. If you don't agree with me,
yes.
David _Modders. I'm just kidding. No, just kidding. No, just messing. Yeah, everybody has their opinions, and I if you don't agree with me, that's fine. Like I said, mine has changed since then. I mean, it's just like my opinion on Rogue One. When I first saw it in theaters, the first night I saw it, I hated it. But now it's one of my favorite Star Wars movies ever. But it's my opinion changed. And Cad Bane was pretty wicked in these episodes. And he was incredible in this one. Especially when he goes up against Fennic Shand. That was, oh my gosh, incredible. The little showdown that they had and the constant fighting through the station. Fennec, you would think with Fennec's young age, because she's a lot younger in this episode than, of course, Cad Bane, she wouldn't have the experience, but she is holding steady with Cad Bane. She's holding par with him. And he, like the whole trick when he threw the thermal detonator to kick it off and end up, knocking Toto out the window and all the credits being destroyed. I mean, it was perfect.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I know I'm interrupting you. Just forgive me. In it would be, season 5 of the Clone Wars. There is the throne room battle between Pre Vizsla and Darth Maul.
Yes.
And that was incredible. And I think you and I have talked about that a little bit, and just the battle between a Mandalorian and Maul ends up, defeating him in the throne room there. But I remember Dave Filoni. He was doing that little interview show after the episodes, and I believe he was doing it with Andy Gutierrez, and he was talking about how he says, "Hey, in this last episode, we had this incredibly choreographed battle between Pre Vizsla and Darth Maul." He says, "But I got to tell you, we've got an even better one next episode." And you're like, "What?" And sure enough, here comes Darth Sidious landing on Mandalore, and he battles Maul and Savage Opress. And the choreography was just, you're like, oh my, unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And so when I was watching these fight scenes between Fennic Shand and Cad Bane, I kept thinking, yeah, they sat there and choreographed this out and just take it up, a number of notches. And it's incredible.
Oh yeah, the fight choreography they do in these shows is outstanding. I mean, you go back to the episode you just talked about, where at the end of the Clone Wars, when you have the Maul versus Ahsoka fight, that thing was completely motion captured with Ray Park and an actress for Ahsoka, and it just really, I mean, they were literally every jump, every spin, everything you see in that fight when you watch the episode was choreographed out by them in a room wearing motion capture suits.
Yeah.
I mean, so these type of fights are not just, oh, we'll sketch this up here, sketch it up here. These are planned out moves and planned out fights step by step. And this was just, par for the course for their battles. It was awesome.
Oh, just outstanding, man. And yes, and I remember the video that StarWars.com put out showing, I think it was Keith Kellogg, the animation director, and Dave Filoni there videotaping Ray Park and that actress. Just incredible. And like I said, this isn't just, well, let's have Cad Bane throw a punch, let's have Fennic Shand shoot her blaster. No, it's outstanding. And I can't imagine the amount of time it took to plan it, animate it, and make it look like that. It's just, I just, I know that when things look wonderful, it takes a long time and a lot of effort. So hats off to them for that battle.
Absolutely. Hats off to them. Great job. Who knows? We may be seeing a Daytime Emmy Award next year, this time for the Bad Batch. So we could see it. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, and I mentioned this during my opening thoughts, my initial thoughts. Omega being rescued too soon. What are your thoughts on that, David?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to lean more towards what you said. I thought they might go an episode or two where she's in his possession, that he has her trapped, to increase the worry and concern about her. But I don't know. I wonder if I have several thoughts going through my mind. I do wonder if they did it more for kids, like you mentioned up above, and I'm looking at it, the Emmy, best music direction for a preschool, children's, or animated program. There's parts of the Clone Wars that is definitely not preschool, a children's show. I mean, it's deeper. This as well, kids being kidnapped and being held. Obviously, I think it brings some relief when it's just a little droid like Toto 360 talking to her. But I wonder if they're kind of like, okay, she's taken. By the end of this one, kids who are watching this can see, okay, she's back, she's safe. And then, of course, the scene we just talked about where Hunter is the father figure, the parental figure, and protecting her. So I guess in my head, I don't know unless, Jennifer Corbett or Brad Rao speak to that. I wonder if that was the pull to kind of resolve it like that. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think there is potential. I think there was potential in going. There's probably potential in going. There is potential in going both ways. I tend to look at, the potential of dragging the capture out longer. I think was huge. So the fact that they didn't and they really sped it up has me thinking what is coming that is better than dragging out this whole capture. Because they could have, there's so many things they could have done with this capture being out there. It could, including bringing in Boba Fett to look for his sister. So there are things they could have done differently that I think would have played in. But I honestly, am I okay with them rescuing her early? Yeah, I'm okay with it. I was not thrilled with it, but I'm okay with it. And I think a lot of my opinion is going to be based on what happens next. Was the rescue worth what's coming up next? There's got to be a payoff, instead of unless, like I said, there has to be some kind of payoff in rescuing her that soon. So this is my thoughts. I don't know. So
I think it's a great talking point.
Yeah. So, I'm looking here at the show notes, and one of your talking points is, and I see you wrote in here, did we see Snoke clone fall out of the vat onto Fennec? That was actually a Kaminoan.
Right. When I looked at it, I thought, geez, oh, Peach, is this continuing some of the stuff we see in The Mandalorian and, creating Snoke as, on the way to trying to find a vessel to hold Darth Sidious. But I agree with you. Yes. I definitely think it's a Kaminoan after watching it again. So they're cloning themselves.
Remember, this is an ancient facility, their old shutdown facility. So they, at one point, yes, they probably attempted, that was probably how they perfected the techniques, was experimenting on themselves, and stuff. So yeah, I'm not surprised if you're cloning other people, you've had to have cloned yourself at one point.
Yeah. And I'm sure they did it. And then when, Darth Tyrannus or Sifo Dyas came to Kamino, the Kaminoans can say, hey, look, here's our long history of cloning. Not just, well, yeah, we can try to create some clone troopers for you. No, we can do it.
Oh, absolutely. So, but I now that I see them cloning themselves, I just got this picture of Tyrannus showing up and being like, oh yeah, come here, or Sifo Dyas showing up, ordering the clone army, and be like, here's a sample of our clone, and it's our clone soldier, and it's a Kaminoan. I don't see them being effective fighters.
You put the helmet on the very top, and their whole neck is showing, right?
Exactly. And I just didn't see that working. Well, how about this guy? Use this guy. Use Boba Fett or Jango Fett.
That's right.
But yeah, no, that's so. Yeah, obviously they would have. I would have imagined they would have had to have tried cloning themselves at some point. So, one of the things that I really liked about this episode was a nod to Rogue One. Did you catch it?
I didn't, but in the show notes when I read it, I'm like, oh, see, brilliant. I love that you caught it. And as soon as I read it, I'm like, I completely agree.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, the reference I'm referring to is after Omega makes her escape in the flight pod, and is, of course, it's damaged by Toto as it escapes, and as she is plummeting into the clouds on her way to a certain death, her pod jostles and comes to a stop. And as she looks up the tunnel, the door opens up, and all of a sudden you see Wrecker pop up. You know, Omega, you down there? And she's like, Wrecker. And of course they get out, but it reminded, that to me was the perfect nod, whether it was on purpose or not, and I have to believe it was, nod to Rogue One when young Jen Erso is hiding in the panic room, and Saul finally shows up and opens up the hatch, and she's looking up at him. And he goes, "Come, child, let's go," and ushers her off to a life in the rebellion. So I loved that little nod to Rogue One. To me, it was, especially since we've had Saw in this series already. It felt right. It just felt good. I really, really enjoyed that.
That was a good catch, buddy.
Right. So anything else that we have not hit on that you want to talk about before we go into our final thoughts, buddy?
No, I put a little note there just to remind me. I just want to encourage our listeners to check out Kristen Baver's interview with the head writer of The Bad Batch, Jennifer Corbett. It's at StarWars.com. I read it last night, and I thought, let me put it in the show notes. I read it last night or sometime over the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, but just lots of good insights on the characters and how, she kind of had to get her head around, what kind of things can you do to challenge super soldiers, Clone Force 99. So just a little heads up, I would encourage our readers to check it out. I really like Kristen's interview with Jennifer Corbett, head writer there for The Bad Batch.
Oh, absolutely. She does a phenomenal job in all her interviews. So I'm glad she did that interview. I saw it. I haven't read it yet, but Kristen always does absolutely awesome interviews. So I can't wait to check that out. All right, David, let's go ahead and wrap things up here with our final thoughts and grades. Why don't you go ahead and kick it off since you're already in the move?
Oh, definitely. Well, this episode to start the second half of the season really delivered for me. The tension and excitement, continued to amp up. Bane versus Shand, Lama Su giving the order to terminate Omega once, the DNA is, obtained or extracted from her. Crosshair's still in hot pursuit. It's there. The tension's there. The world building's incredible. How the story leads to the Leto system and this planet. Again, you and I go through the episode guide. It's called Bora Vio. It's just beautiful. It's literally, Tofoka City, not in the water, but like in the air. So just beautiful world building. We see more of Cad Bane's ship, the Justifier, in this episode. I really enjoyed seeing that. They really actually talked more about it and showed more concept art from the episode guide for Reunion, last week's episode. But they do talk about it a little bit more in this episode guide for this episode. But really neat ship. It's not his original ship that you see in the Clone Wars. So really neat stuff there. I love Fennic Shand's ship. I love that she sabotaged his, and then she takes off smooth and easy, getting away from him and frustrating Bane. And I guess the thing I thought about in my final thoughts for this was maybe to ask this question for our listeners to ask themselves, do you want to see more? After you've seen last week's episode, this week's, do you want to see more? My answer is heck yes. I want to see more. I can't wait for the remaining episodes. I'm going to enjoy the heck out of them. And for this one, I would also, give this a solid A.
Very good. Very good. And I will agree with you. Yes, I want to see more. This was a great kickoff to the second half of this season. I loved everything about it. The back and forth between Fennic Shand and Cad Bane, as well as the back and forth between Toto and Omega. It was just great. There was some humor. There was a lot of action, well choreographed action, beautiful animation. Oh my gosh, animation was gorgeous. The music was perfect. Oh my gosh, Kevin Kiner is killing it. I will say, like I said earlier, the whole Omega being Omega Fett did throw me a little bit. I wasn't prepared for that. So it did throw me, caught me off guard. I'm pleasantly surprised, to say the least. But it was good. Like I said, I wasn't sure, but still not sure about the rescue being rushed. But it does make sense, and it was extremely well executed. So I mean, overall, I would have to give this episode a grade of an A-.
Understood.
So, all right. So we got to know, what did you think? You gave your grade, didn't you, David?
I did. I saw it.
Okay. That's what I thought you did. I just wanted to make sure. My mind was going blank for a second. So, but we want to know what y'all think of Bounty Lost. Let us know how you would grade this episode. You can hit us up on any of our social medias, whether it be Facebook and Instagram, which are handles at both our SW Reactions, or of course Twitter at SW Reactions Pod, or of course email show@StarWarsReactions.com. All right, David, I believe you have a continuation of an excellent psychology corner for us this week.
Well, I do. Last week, I gave a definition of stress, and then I shared some of the statistics. I shared maybe too many, but I wanted to give people a good feel for from the data from the Stress in America survey being conducted by the American Psychological Association. So I set the stage last week talking about that. I also said that I would give some information on stress worldwide. I really focused in on the Stress in America study, like I said last week, but this week I said I would give some of that. And in particular, the way that I'll talk about it, I think of stress, depression, and anxiety as hanging together. The data that I wanted to share is directly from Dr. Stephen Hayes' book called A Liberated Mind: How to Pivot Towards What Matters. It's a 2019 book, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more, and as well as what it covers, which is acceptance and commitment therapy. But at the beginning of the book, Dr. Hayes makes, he doesn't have to make an argument. He gives data to support that people are not dealing with stress, depression, or anxiety very well on a worldwide basis. So let me give our listeners some statistics to show that. So starting in 1990, depression was the fourth leading cause of disability and disease worldwide. The three that were ahead of depression at that time were respiratory infections, diarrheal illnesses, and prenatal conditions. You can visualize a lot of those issues in third world countries. Now, listen. By 2000, 10 years later, depression had moved to number 3, the third leading cause of disability and disease worldwide. By 2010, depression was number 2 in the world in terms of disease and disability. And we didn't even get to 2020. By 2017, the World Health Organization, WHO, listed depression as the number 1 cause of disability and disease worldwide. What does that mean? What it means is that not just here in America are people stressed, but people are stressed around the world. And we're talking before COVID here, people. We're talking before 2020. And that's where all this data, 1990, 2000, 2010, 2017. So people are stressed around the world, and there's not the help there. We have a broken mental health system here in America. In some of these countries, it's non-existent. How many psychologists are there? How many psychiatrists? Is there proper medication in these countries, proper treatment on so many different levels? And to a large extent, no. And if it's there, can people afford it? Probably not. So I wanted to share that data just to get, make our listeners good psychologists so that they know this. And then I also said last week, as a little tease to come back this week, is that I would share some various techniques to help people decrease their stress levels. One of the things I mentioned was I was going to talk about Amy Ratcliffe's book, and I will do that in just a second. So let me just start, again, making our listeners good psychologists. Let me just give an overview of some of the psychological approaches that there are in the world to treating stress, depression, and anxiety. Let me run through these relatively quickly. I'm going to go over 4 main theoretical orientations, okay? The first one, before talk therapy existed, Freud really started to develop psychoanalytic theory. Freud developed this in Vienna, Austria, developed a theory of treatment, which is psychoanalysis. He talked about defense mechanisms, and he also developed a theory of development of children and adolescents. So psychoanalytic theory really starts off this treatment that we see within psychology and psychiatry. Behaviorism then comes to the forefront. Behaviorism was really emphasized by B.F. Skinner at Harvard in the 50s and 60s. At that time, the brain was considered the black box, and people didn't really want to look at thoughts and emotions. They just wanted to look at behavior. And behaviorism, like I said, really was at the forefront of psychology, not only in the United States, but in Europe as well. Right after that, go down the East Coast a little bit. From Harvard, you come down to the University of Pennsylvania, and you have Aaron Beck developing cognitive behavioral theory, CBT. I was trained, my master's and PhD is at a cognitive behavioral program. I did not go to a psychoanalytic program, but I was trained in cognitive behavioral therapy, but also in behaviorism by my professors there at Wayne State University in Detroit. Now, commitment therapy or acceptance and commitment theory. This is developed by Dr. Stephen Hayes. I just mentioned his book, A Liberated Mind. It's his 45th book. It was published in 2019. Excellent book. I'd recommend to people. And in it, it really feels like a compilation of his work. Dr. Hayes was trained in CBT and behaviorism like myself, but 20 years prior to me getting my degrees. He ended up using the remainder of his career to develop acceptance and commitment therapy. Why do I share this? Because there's 6 pivots he talks about that will help people, and I teach this every day in my office. We want to help people go from psychological rigidity, not thinking properly, thinking false thoughts, etc., over to psychological flexibility. All right. Now, the thing that I wanted to focus on tonight, and it does tie into Amy Ratcliffe's book, is out of the 6 pivots, usually you cover them in order. I just wanted to get to pivot 4 tonight, and that is called presence. And it really looks at mindfulness and helping people to calm themselves from stress or depression or anxiety. And Amy and I have the book in my hand right here. Her book, if people didn't get it, it came out last fall. Very small book, beautifully illustrated book, but Amy wrote it, and it's called The Jedi Mind, and the subtitle is Secrets from the Force for Balance and Peace. And the way that Amy set this book up was outstanding, because in the introduction, Amy is very vulnerable and describes herself as a very anxious person who really benefits from mindfulness. And what's great is also at the very beginning of the book is she says this: meditation is just one way to mindfulness. And that was so helpful for me, because throughout the rest of the book, you can look, and several times she does talk about meditation, but there's all these other ways to be mindful and to calm yourself that do not involve meditation. Now, why do I bring this up? Because over the years, like I've said before, I've talked to thousands of people, and I've asked a lot of them, hey, are you good at meditation? And every one of my clients, of every age, of every color skin, young, middle age, older, say, no, I'm not good at it, David. And the reason why none of us in America have historically been good at meditation is because none of us were raised with it. It's not culturally part of whether you're from the East Coast, West Coast, North, or South. It just isn't something we're raised with. So again, I want to encourage people to use it. I just wanted people to know about this great book that ties in Star Wars, which we love, with something that helps us decrease stress. Now, one of the things that I wanted to share tonight was 3 of the techniques that Amy shares in her book. Now, there's many more than that, okay? But there's 3 that I use to help me deal with stress. One is called mindful posture. And I love this immediately. And again, Amy has these beautiful illustrations in there. And she talks a little bit about Star Wars, and then she talks about the technique itself. With mindful posture, one thing I thought about, Aaron, is that most of us Americans are sitting a lot. We are bent over computer screens, and we have terrible posture. I feel gravity working on me. It wants to pull me down, in my entire body, right? Everything starts to sag. So mindful posture is simply making sure your posture is good no matter where you're sitting. And I use this when I'm in my office working with clients, when I'm sitting here talking to you, Aaron, when we're recording our podcast, is I'm pulling my shoulders back and down. And it does help relax my body. And I would encourage people to do it. If that's not for them, take a look at Amy's book and find another technique that you like. Let me give a second one. So first one, mindful posture. Another one is called triangle breathing. Let me explain this. Amy instructs the reader to visualize, your eyes are closed, visualize a triangle and breathe in for 4 seconds. And you can kind of watch one side of that triangle light up. Then she says, visualize yourself holding the breath for 4 seconds, and the second side of the triangle, is filled in. And then release the air over 4 seconds, and you see the third side of that triangle fill in. I just think of blue, I always think of the Star Wars credits are blue. So I just have a triangle that fills in blue on all 3 sides, to keep it Star Warsy. But that's very relaxing. Now, again, why do I bring this up? Americans, don't breathe properly. And I'll point the finger at myself. I thought, no, I got this. I breathe properly. And when I started to look at it, not only does my posture, need to work on that every day, I need to work on breathing properly throughout the day. And when people are stressed, when they're anxious, their breathing gets shallow. And what Amy is giving you here is a technique to relax your breathing and relax yourself. Now, there's a third technique that I really enjoy. And on this particular page, the illustration is of Qui-Gon Jinn, like he's holding a cup of coffee just with his eyes closed, savoring the taste of it. I guess it would be Calf, right, in the Star Wars universe. But Amy talks about applying this to anything that we do, any little thing that seems it seems mindless. And she talks about just taking our time and savoring it more. So I'm a big fan of iced coffee. So when I get an iced coffee, one of the things I used to do is just suck it down as fast as I could. But when I read this, when I got, her book this past fall, I'm like, wait, I'm going to apply that. And let me just stop. Let me take smaller sips and just really enjoy what I'm drinking, not just horse it down like most Americans do. Again, I'll throw myself under the bus. So those are only 3 of the techniques that she puts in there. And just a side little note, and I want to give praise to Dr. Andrea Letamendi. Dr. Letamendi is a professor of psychology at UCLA, and Amy Ratcliffe and Dr. Andrea Letamendi did a podcast together on the Coffee with Kenobi Network when Aaron and I were part of that. It was called Lattes with Leia. And, Dr. Letamendi would bring her psychological insights to that. So in the back of the book, Amy does acknowledge her help with it. And I'm so glad they worked together on it. So just a little side note on that. Now, I was thinking back to last week, I had mentioned, well, let me cover stress because the Bad Batch is stressed. And let me just do it in one psychology corner. And I'm like, no, that is not going to do it justice. So I went from doing 2, but what I thought I would do is today cover some of the techniques from, like I said, Amy Ratcliffe's book, The Jedi Mind. But in the next few episodes, I'll share more ways to decrease stress, depression, and anxiety from, say, some of these theoretical orientations I mentioned to you, some from behaviorism, from psychoanalytic theory, from cognitive behavioral theory. I'll share that with you, again, helping all of our listeners to become good psychologists and to feel less stressed, depressed, and anxious. So we're giving psychology away, Aaron.
And an incredible job you do giving it away.
Thanks, buddy.
Awesome job. Hope y'all learn as much from these psychology corners as I do. As stressed as my life is, I definitely will be trying out those postures and triangle breathing. And I'm sitting here breathing in my soda right now.
Hey, quick side note. I had a friend bought 15. I recommended it to him. He liked it so much he bought 15 copies last fall, and he handed out a number of them as Christmas gifts. And they're not expensive. They're just like little $14 books. It's brilliant.
Okay. Well, I heard she wrote it. I haven't seen it yet, so I may have to go pick that up myself.
Oh, definitely.
And check it out, because I was blessed to meet Amy at the last celebration in Orlando, and just an awesome person. So awesome job on the psychology corner, and awesome. Hopefully everybody learned something. David, if somebody wanted to reach out to you and ask questions about the psychology corner, or even talk to you about Star Wars, how would they go about doing that?
Absolutely. There's 2 places that you and I have pretty much stuck to. It's been pretty consistent. One is on Twitter at David_Modders, Modders. The other one is email, and it is david@StarWarsReactions.com.
Very good. Very good. And of course, if you do want to talk Star Wars with me, I should say, you can always hit me up at Star Wars. That's the wrong one. You can hit me up on Twitter at TAHarris121079. Carabast. I need to change my handle to Carabast is what I need to do, man. Or you can email me, Aaron at StarWarsReactions.com. So yeah. And of course, remember, make sure you're checking us out on all of our social medias. I gave those earlier on Facebook at SW Reactions, Twitter, SW Reaction. Twitter, SW Reactions Pod, and Instagram, SW Reactions. We are planning, it's our 50th episode. So I was hoping to be a little further along in this project, and I'm not quite there yet, but we are working on something big for our social media pages. So you want to make sure you are keeping up. And if you haven't subscribed to all of them, make sure you go through and subscribe to the ones that you can, because there's going to be some great content that's coming soon to all of those, and we'll let you know more details about it as we go along. But we got a great initiative that we are currently working on for our social media pages, and we hope you will enjoy it as much as we are enjoying it putting it together.
That's right.
So, David, 50 episodes, my brother. I've enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you so much.
Oh, me too, man. I'm, again, very thankful for you, very thankful for the podcast, our listeners. Thank you for listening. And it's such a neat thing that people do listen in. And I hope that we're giving back to them, and they feel like they're getting more than Star Wars. They're getting some extra stuff, and I'm thankful that you and I can do it together. And let's keep plugging along, buddy, and just supporting each other and supporting our listeners.
Absolutely. Thank you. Definitely, our glass is raised to everybody out there. We thank you so much for listening in. Thank you, David, for being an awesome co-host for these first 50 episodes. Here's to 50 more, at least. And of course, we want to thank each and every one of you who've tuned in to each of these episodes. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we enjoy your feedback and your reactions with us. And y'all are awesome. Y'all are great. We are thankful, and we pray for y'all daily. Remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.